listener production.
Hey, Tara Cassidy with you and welcome to The Briefing. Would you pay to be frozen when you die in the hope that science will bring you back to life decades or even centuries in the future? So far, 2 Aussies have been cryogenically frozen here in Australia, with many others coughing up thousands to be next.
People said in the 1950s that organ transplants are impossible. Now it's common. People said it would take hundreds of years to decode the human genome. It took less than a decade. People said reusable rockets are not feasible. Then Elon Musk just did it. We know it's not working at the moment, but it has potential.
That chat with one of the people who's signed up for a second chance at life after death is coming up in the second half of this episode. First though, let's get into the headlines with Helen Smith. It's Tuesday, the 29th of July. Hey Tara, and to you listening. We're starting this morning overseas, where US President Donald Trump has contradicted Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is also an accused international war criminal, after he claimed it was a bold-faced lie to say Israel was causing hunger in Gaza.
There is no starvation in Gaza, no policy of starvation in Gaza.
For the first time, Trump contradicted the statement by the Israeli Prime Minister during his visit with British PM Keir Starmer in Scotland, acknowledging the starvation and agreeing they must bring an end to the misery. Yeah, and it comes as dozens of Palestinians have died from hunger in recent weeks, as well as there being widespread malnutrition, which the WHO called man-made mass starvation, from Israel's blockade of almost all aid into the territory. And during that meeting, Trump actually urged Israel to allow every ounce of food into Gaza, saying we've got to make sure they don't have barriers stopping people from getting it.
We can save a lot of people. I mean, some of those kids that's real starvation stuff. I see it. You can't fake that. So we're going to be even more involved.
Now, the images that have been coming out of Gaza showing starvation have really taken a hold of the world, Helen, and during talks on a 2-state solution for Israel and Palestine at the UN, the Secretary-General said nothing can justify the obliteration of Gaza that has unfolded before the eyes of the world. Yeah, and meanwhile, as well as Netanyahu's total denial of starvation, Israel's number 2 diplomat has gone as far as labelling those images and videos as fake, saying they're part of a false campaign by Hamas. Yeah, and we've actually even seen some Australian politicians come out in support of Hamas in recent days. Not what Hamas has done, but coalition frontbencher Dan Tehan actually challenged Albo's claim that Israel was breaching international law by those food blockades, saying that Hamas is to blame and that they were weaponising aid, while others have pointed out, rightly, that civilians should never be caught in the crossfire. Now, despite Trump's calls and acknowledgements of starvation, it's also important to note that the US provides Israel with billions of dollars in military assistance annually, and these are despite allegations of rights violations that would make the country ineligible for security aid under US law. Childcare providers could have their funding stripped within weeks if they don't meet quality standards. It comes after the federal government introduced its new early childhood bill to Parliament this week, aiming to give it more powers to crack down on abuse in centres. Following various horrific cases coming to light across the country, particularly that one involving 26-year-old Joshua Brown, who is accused of abusing 8 children at a Melbourne facility in recent years, there has been a number of issues that have come to light around the sector. And according to The Guardian, Education Minister Jason Clare says they're top of the agenda for an upcoming meeting between state and territory ministers, with mounting support for a national register for employees and mandatory child safety training. They'll also look at whether CCTV should be required in all early learning facilities. However, this suggestion has received pushback by some providers who've raised concerns about the cost and resources needed to run and monitor them, as well as the risk of footage falling into the wrong hands. Meanwhile, the departments are already working on a list of providers to bring action against that currently don't meet national standards for child safety, and they can expect to see the new law in action soon, with hopes the bill will pass this week. The heated debate over whether sex is a binary biological reality or not will continue in an Australian court after a gay and trans advocacy group joined a transgender woman's legal fight.
Equality Australia plans to back Roxanne Tickle in the federal court, where she's arguing that female-only spaces shouldn't be able to exclude trans women. And it comes after Miss Tickle took action against the founder of female-only networking app Giggle, Sally Grover, for rejecting her from the app for being a biological man.
Yeah, and last year, Grover actually lost that case, but is now appealing the decision with support from the Lesbian Action Group. And according to The Australian, their position is that men and women have biological characteristics which determine their sex. Meanwhile, Equality Australia, which is planning to assist Roxanne Tickle, plans to challenge that view. Instead, they've submitted that sex is changeable, non-binary, and can't be narrowed only to biology assigned at birth, Helen. And like this debate, it shows a division not just in the LGBTIQ plus community, but it's a broader conversation and argument that's happening across the country, even globally right now.
Yeah, and we've seen the same debate happen in a few different ways. In Tasmania, where Hobart's Museum of Old and New, or Mona, they won an anti-discrimination case brought against them relating to their women's only lounge. It's also happening relating to sport here in Australia and overseas. For example, transgender athletes have effectively been banned from the US Olympics team after a recent policy change.
Yeah, and meanwhile, this same kind of conversation, while not about transgender athletes, there was a similar one happening relating to boxing. There was uproar over Emaine Khalif winning gold at the Paris Olympics, and that was after she failed a sex chromosome test that the IBA said made her ineligible to compete as a woman. And separate to that, who can forget J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter, and her very, very strong anti-trans views that have been seen by the world in recent months and years and has caused a lot of backlash, Helen.
Yeah, and I think it's important when we're having these discussions to acknowledge the point that it's often missed in these debates. You know, trans people are people just like everyone else, and their experiences are real and valid, which we don't want to minimise.
Yeah, and look, I think regardless of what side of this debate you're on, I think that is the point. There's two very strong views, and we're about to see it play out in court again at a very high level, and this could have broader implications in these other cases, so I think it's one to wait and watch.
Webjet has been hit with a $9 million fine after it admitted it failed to include compulsory fees in some of its advertised airfare cost and provided misleading booking confirmations. The ACCC started their investigation after a customer complained that an airfare advertising you could fly from Uluru from $18 ended up costing triple that amount once all the compulsory fees were added.
Oh, shock horror. And during the federal court case, Webjet actually admitted it made misleading statements in promotional emails and social media posts on airfare prices between 2018 and 2023. And the ACCC chair says it is a serious breach of Australian consumer law to lure in customers with prices that don't actually tell the whole story. And the travel giant has agreed to pay the $9 million penalty. It'll publish a corrective notice and pay a $100,000 contribution to the ACCC's cost. But I mean, Helen, I think I just look around and I'm like, nearly every massive organisation out there would breach these laws in some way. Like, I think other airlines do this exact same thing.
Yeah, I definitely think a lot of companies do get away with some misleading advertisements. But looking into these compulsory fees, what were they? So they included a Webjet servicing fee and a booking price guarantee fee, and these would range from $34.90 to $54.90 a booking, depending on the destination. So definitely not that $18 fare.
No.
And it also found that Webjet's social media posts did not disclose the additional fees. However, they were disclosed on the website, app, and most emails.
And this just reminds me, like, do you remember Telstra not that long ago was found to be doing something sneaky as well, where basically they lied about how broad their coverage is in Australia, only for people to find out that you pretty much have to go and pop this antenna on the top of your car, hold your arm out for it to actually reach this coverage. Like, this is happening other places, I tell ya.
Yeah, it's definitely like a little bit of sugar on top. But these Webjet fees as well, they make up a lot of their revenue. So it's around 36% of Webjet's total revenue. And this was just between November 2018 and November 2023. So a lot of money there.
You give up football now. What are you going to have to give up next?
Don't rub it in, right?
You came here because you need me if that bloody scout shows up.
Yes, bring out your popcorn and get ready for some much welcome nostalgia. One of Australia's favourite 90s flicks is bringing around a second movie over 20 years after it was first released. Bend It Like Beckham, the iconic film about two teens who come from different walks of life and their dreams of becoming football stars.
How long have you been playing? For ages, but just in the park. Nothing as serious as this.
This serious? That'll do for now. I want to play professionally.
That's that movie that stars Keira Knightley, and they've made this announcement about the sequel 23 years on, but it's actually set to be released in 2027 to honour the movie's 25th anniversary, and it'll also be in line with the FIFA Women's World Cup in Brazil, which is really cool.
That is really cool. And obviously it was a box office hit, and the director says that she's had requests for a number 2 almost twice a week in the last 2 decades. So a lot of people are going to be happy about this one. And interestingly enough, they haven't decided if it will be another movie or a TV series, but apparently we'll have some of the original stars. But either way, I think it's going to get a lot of eyeballs and be a lot of fun.
100%. I will be one watching. I know that I watched this movie probably 1,000 times growing up, so I'm very excited to see what they do with it, and I will definitely be going to the cinemas maybe to watch this one when it comes out. Now, that brings our headlines to a close for today. Next up is My Deep Dive, where I talk to one of the people that's paying to be brought back to life after death. Have a listen to that up next.
120 years hibernation means we'll wake up in a new century on a new planet. Nobody else is awake.
I think something went wrong with the hibernation pods.
It's the science fiction plot that Hollywood has been dreaming up for decades. People being cryogenically frozen to be revived in the future, if or when science allows. And while it might sound far-fetched, interest is growing, with cryogenic freezing already underway at a facility in a small New South Wales town, the only one in the Southern Hemisphere. A New South Wales man and a Melbourne woman became the first to undergo the procedure in the last 18 months, joining just 600 other people around the world, while many others have signed up to be next. One of them is Alex from South Australia, who joins me now. Alex, welcome to the briefing. Tell me, why do you want to be cryogenically frozen?
Well, I'm an adventurer, all right? So I believe in human progress. I think there's a lot to see and discover, and I want to be able to experience some of that. So I don't want to live forever because that's not realistic, but I just want to extend my life a little bit to see where progress has taken humankind. I would say I'm a chronic optimist.
Chronic optimist. And what first inspired you to get involved in this?
I read about it like in a magazine, like I thought it was interesting and then just forgot about it again. Then I listened to a podcast in 2018 and I actually looked into more of the details of it, kind of like what it actually entailed. And then I signed up with an organization in America called the Cryonics Institute. And I have been like a member with them for several years. And then eventually when Southern Cryonics here in Australia started developing their own facility, I became interested in that. I just waited to see how it would develop. And when I started being convinced that it was stable in Australia as well, that it was all set up and very well thought through, I agreed to switch from my previous organization. But just to make clear, I don't work for them. Like, I'm not employed by them. I don't speak for them. Okay. I'm merely a member, so to say, who is using their service.
And what have you so far learned about the cryogenic freezing process? How does it work?
Well, I have very thoroughly researched it. All right. The technique that's currently used is called vitrification, and it involves you getting a cryoprotectant. So that's a chemical which stops your cells from breaking apart. You get that injected into your bloodstream. I mean, that's obviously after you are legally dead. Okay, just to make it clear. So you are legally dead, just like everybody else. Okay, your blood gets replaced with this cryoprotectant, which makes sure once the temperature gets lowered down that like you don't turn too much, basically. And then you get put in a cooling box, and the box is intended to like lower the temperature of the body slowly down to the liquid nitrogen temperature. Because of that temperature, your biology doesn't change anymore. Basically, you are exactly in the state you're in like when you died. So I always keep on saying cryonics is a pause button. We know that the technology right now is like not there to revive you. And everybody who's involved in this knows it. Okay. Everybody who has signed up is aware that at this moment, it is not working. But it is a pause button. So I keep on saying I'm dead, just like everybody else. Okay. But I am dead with potential. I am not rotting in the ground. So I'm lying there basically the exact state that I was when I died. Okay. So I know that there's doubters and naysayers that have like already made up their mind without even doing any research into it. And people said in the 1950s that organ transplants are impossible. And then a doctor from South Africa just did it. Now it's common. People said it would take hundreds of years to decode the human genome. It took less than a decade. Okay. People said reusable rockets are not feasible. Then Elon Musk just did it. Some people say like it's quackery or whatever. Well, there's like scientists at the University of Minnesota in the US. They're working on freezing, thawing, and reimplanting organs. Okay. Because currently, if you get a transplant, like a heart is taken out, after 46 hours, like a heart needs to be thrown away because it can't be used. So like mainstream, regular scientists, okay, not associated with this whatsoever, realizing that so many organs get thrown away, are actually doing research into it. So the doctor who developed this vitrification method in the 1980s, okay, the method that's used these days to freeze sperm, to freeze eggs and embryos on a daily basis worldwide. His name is Greg Fahy. He's a cryonicist. And he should know something about it because his patented technology is used on a day-to-day basis. So I think he understands how it works roughly. He's not benefiting or profiting or anything whatsoever from it, but he realizes, yeah, well, I guess it could work. Yeah, like I said, we know it's not working at the moment, but it has potential.
Is that then your kind of message to the critics that, look, even if there is this slightest chance that this works one day in the future, that why not take it? It's better than the other alternative.
That is exactly right. So we know the chances are slim, like a moment, obviously it doesn't work. Okay. So from our point of view, the chance is still above zero. Anything above zero is great. And if you're like just have been living through the last couple of years or decades, you might also have seen the progress that has happened in general. There have been what's called xenotransplants, like last year. That was like the first attempts to like have genetically modified organs from animals, like put into human bodies. There's like 3D bioprinted livers going through trials. There's artificial hearts. There's like lots of progress happening, which people previously said this is just not feasible. I know obviously that there's going to be damage to my body from the freezing process. Actually, maybe freezing process is also not scientifically correct, really, because you're not really frozen. It's a glass-like state. It's not a normal freezer like you're putting your chicken into the freezer at -4 degrees, okay? You're in a state which is similar to glass, and you're staying at that temperature, and like nothing is moving around anymore.
I understand that the overall price tag is quite exy. From what I'd read, well over $150,000. But I understand you actually start paying it off earlier in life. What can you tell me about that?
Well, first of all, like cryonics is not a business. Okay, that's also one of those like common things. People have already made up their mind about it. They don't like the principle of it. They don't think like people should be doing this. And then it's like right away, it's a scam. So nobody has ever gotten rich of it. It's generally handled like a club. So most work is done by volunteers. They take care of the organization's account in their free time. You know, you have people who are like ambulance drivers during the day, and then after work, they might be like contributing to this on the side. A lot of cryonic organizations have democratic structures. That means like the members elect the board that makes the decisions, you know, so you can actually vote who is running the organization. They're not just taking your money. They're officially not-for-profit organizations. But it was like in the early days, and like cryonics, it's been around since like the 1960s. Okay. In the early days, people were like very compassionate, and they would like start freezing people. And then like the relatives were expected to pay the upkeep. And then like eventually the relatives just didn't want to do it anymore. And then those people were like lost. And the community has adjusted. They have realized this is obviously not the way to do it. So that's why the price tag now is so high that the interest alone on this is keeping the whole thing alive. So the money is put on the side. It is put in general what's often called like a patient trust. So legally, the organization can't touch it. And like the interest that's earned on it is paying for like the upkeep, basically like the building and the cost to refill the liquid nitrogen on a regular basis, like a little bit of electricity costs here and there. So it's not a scam. Nobody is getting rich of it. And the price tag is high, yes, but that doesn't mean that like people are living the good life of that money. That money is like safe in the bank, and just the interest on it keeps like the patients being taken care of.
And Alex, I must ask, say this works and scientists do manage to revive you one day in the future, what do you hope the world will be like?
I don't know. I think hopefully maybe in the future, like when technology has advanced, and we might be going out, settling Mars, exploring the solar system, doing other things that are currently not possible. I don't know. I think it might be, like I said, it would be interesting to explore it for a while. And if I don't think it's for me, then I will just decide on my own terms when it's time to call it to an end.
Who knows, you may actually be one of the people to find out. Alex, thank you so much for joining me on The Briefing today.
Well, no worries. Thank you so much.
That was Alex speaking with me there, one of the Aussies who signed up to be cryogenically frozen when he dies. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Briefing. That's it for now. If you found it interesting, don't forget to leave us a comment or a review, or you can check us out on Instagram at The Briefing Podcast. I'm Tara Cassidy. See you next time.
Listener.